Jagan, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me here.
So let's start by taking a look at what makes quote to cash a compelling area for finance to take a leadership role.
You have seen a lot of business models change in the last 20 years. These business models have changed very rapidly, and it has caused a very massive disruption in the overall processes. And any business that want to innovate, introduce new products, do any pricing strategy, there's so much impact happening in the back office, especially in the quote to revenue processes, because they are directly connected with customer experience. So that's what makes the quote to cash a much more important function in any business that can drive the growth and adapt the new business models.
So let's first take a step back and just look at what do you see as the challenges for finance executives and finance organizations in adapting to these new business models, whether it's subscription or consumption or any of them?
The migration of business from the traditional business models to subscription and consumption business models, this has given the end customers a flexibility to use whatever products they want. They can cancel whenever they want. They can upgrade anytime they need. They can buy more products they want. So the contract terms have become super customer friendly. So that means it's more complex for the businesses because they have to adapt to all the different terms and conditions on the contract, how they sell the products, how they invoice the products. Now, when you have all these complexities, the finance team has to deal with how do they make sure the customer experience goes down, even after giving all these best choices for the customers. And then internally, how do they ensure they can do the right accounting, they collect the right money, and they do the right reporting to the streets, and how can they forecast their business, how can they grow the business. These are all the internal painful process for finance to handle given this change in this business model.
So one of the challenges that you just kind of alluded to there is the fact that finance has to deal with sales, have to deal with the fact that 30% of the average support questions that come in typically have a billing question tied to them. How can finance better integrate across the organization, across the different functions to get to a better outcome in quote to cash?
Traditionally, you've seen these teams operate in silos. Like sales will go and sell, they take the list price, list sheet, they sell the products based on the list price, they give whatever discount they want, they don't care about what happens in the back office, how they record their revenue, what revenue is really recognized on the P&L and balance sheet, they don't care. But because of this, there's been a lot of surprises for the CFOs at the last minute to see the numbers they projected, they don't make the revenue numbers, even though sales team claims they've done all the sales according to their projection. In the last 10 years, I would say these teams have come together to solve the overall problems for the companies, right? There are no more silos. They are working together. Sales cannot launch something without consulting with finance, and finance can make decisions without working with sales. So we've seen in the last 10 years, these teams are working together than working on their own. Now, sales is very dependent. When they want to do some pricing, they're always working with finance to make sure what is the maximum discount I can give a customer? Why shouldn't I go above certain discount? What products can I discount? What I should not discount? So they are working together to make all the decisions today.
But in reality, you get to the end of the quarter, you get to the end of the year, and sales is going to do whatever it takes to make the number. And I don't know, you could say ironically, it's the CFO that has to sign his or her name on the financial statements to the auditors and to the regulators. It would be a different picture maybe if sales had to sign on the line. One of the challenges for the finance organization in producing those statements and in producing the audited reports, the inputs to that comes down to revenue recognition. Kind of what role do you see revenue recognition having in terms of enabling better quote to cash process?
Yeah, I think you said it right. Even though these teams work together, they try to make their decisions together. When quarter end comes, what is the most important thing? They have to meet the numbers they've promised to the street or the internal goals, everything. Um, at that point, the sales doesn't care about what happens on the accounting function, what they do. Now, okay, now sales go and do whatever they want to do to make the revenue numbers attain. They want to sell whatever they sell. Now, how does the finance team make sure they account everything correct? That's where a lot of the regulatory team has put a lot of guidance on how to recognize revenue, and they have a lot of rules set up how you need to account for certain products, how you sell the product, how you discount the products, and everything. Now, to handle this complexity, the finance team has to go through a huge amount of calculations and everything to get these finances right. How do they get to these numbers? What tools they use? We will talk about it, but this is where the efficiency in the quote to cash process comes in.
In the past, organizations would just throw more people at it and more spreadsheets. And today, there's no way you can scale a finance organization and do things in a timely manner, in an accurate manner, in an auditable manner, and get it right. So what does the modern CFO, what does the modern finance organization do to be able to scale without having to throw more bodies at it?
Yeah, the reason why, first of all, why we can't use spreadsheets or anything, because the new business models are now putting out enormous amount of data, right? Like you go to a SaaS business or you go to a consumption business model. In a SaaS business, if you're on a monthly billing, every month you have an invoice. Traditionally, if you invoiced one time, there's only one time billing, and the customer owns the software, there's no more billing. But now in SaaS, you have every month the billing goes out. If you have 100 million subscribers, there is 100 million invoices going out every month. And in a year, you have 1.2 billion invoices you can have. Look at the amount of data they have to handle to calculate all this revenue, right? The Excel is not going to hold. Some people do it in Access database, it's not going to hold. ERPs, I would say they don't really care to get to the complexity. They handle things at the surface level, but then let the business do what you want to do in spreadsheets or figure it out on your own. That's where people throw a lot of bodies today.
So why not? The other approach is using a data lake. What's wrong with that approach?
Which is great. Data lake can hold a huge amount of data, but then you have to go and build all these complex algorithms to calculate the revenue for you. It's not super straightforward. Given the ASC 606 that came in with all the complexities with pricing, bundling, all of that, to write the calculations to get to the right revenue number is almost building another product for you, right? So why do the work for you on you? Why can't you buy something that outside that somebody has done the work for you and use it?
So what are the data analytic tools that people can use? How do you solve this problem?
I would say more than just the analytics tool, you need a calculation engine first to take all these data points, apply the right revenue rules, and then come up with the right revenue numbers. And then on top of this, you can put an analytics tool to analyze all your revenue to figure out what are the revenue patterns you're seeing, what are the revenue streams, where it's coming from, how is this going to impact your future revenue growth. You can do all this. From a tool perspective, there are several big data lakes available. You can look at like Snowflake is something that we use heavily. It's like it can handle a huge volume of data. There are other tools as well, but we use Snowflake as our platform to do all kind of analysis, and our calculation engine runs on Snowflake. And then we apply a user-friendly analytics tool on top of Snowflake to provide you the great KPIs, reports, analytics, all of that.
So what about the problem of the ingestion of the data in the first place? So we're talking about calculations.
Yeah.
Once you've got the data, how do you bring the data in a consistent format that can be...
That's where the challenge is, because first of all, the data is enormous amount of data. The data quality can be like super bad in some use cases. Data can come from various sources. So if you're going to automate revenue for an IoT company, think of millions of IoT devices they sell. All these devices can start sending you data, consumption data, metering data, everything, and then you have to do revenue recognition on them. So your sources can be millions of devices. It can be a couple of systems out there. Now, when you ingest all this data quality is a huge issue for a revenue automation tool. You put bad data, either you stop it and not get in to calculate revenue and have the team fix it, or if you let it in, it's going to calculate incorrect. This is where the specialized revenue recognition tools have a gatekeeper up front where it will block bad data to come in, and it will alert the user saying, you need to take care of this data before we can process.
Why do you see quote to cash as the opportunity for finance? Finance could look and solve a lot of different problems across the business. They have a view across everything. What's unique about quote to cash that makes it so special?
So the most important metric that you see on a financial statement is going to be a revenue number, which is the top line growth, right? Now, what feeds into the top line growth is going to be the data coming from your quote to revenue process or quote to cash process, you say, right? If the finance team can focus and get this right, your P&L is screwed up. You can't do much about it. Your top line is going to be incorrect. Now, getting the quote to revenue process right is going to help your sales team sell more, get the customer experience better, and also if you want to introduce new products, how quickly you can introduce to the market. Without having a proper quote to finance, you are literally limiting your business growth because they can launch new products quickly. They cannot put a new pricing strategy quickly because your processes won't support them, right? So this is where finance team spends most of the time making sure their quote to revenue process is absolutely scalable, efficient, and clean and neat. It handles all this business models.
Now, you work with some very progressive, innovative companies. Traditionally, people think about revenue accounting as something that's done kind of after the fact. What are you seeing inside of companies where the finance organization is able to make decisions inside of the quarter based on how the quarter is going and what revenue they want to incentivize in the quarter versus what revenue they may want to push out and recognize a quarter or two or three later?
I think most of the companies take the revenue as it comes. I've seen this, I would say, in the traditional business models where the companies can decide they want to take the revenue this quarter or do they want to push it out to the next quarter. But with the new business models like subscription and consumption, you don't have a choice, right? If your customers use the product, you have to recognize revenue. There's no choice. On a SaaS business, you just cannot stop it because it's monthly recurring revenue. You have to take it. You can't push out or push in anything. But now, how do you account this correctly month to month, and how do you give the visibility inside the business is the most challenging thing the finance is trying to solve.
Pricing is one of those areas where, for most organizations, the pricing muscle, if you will, kind of went unused for a lot of years. And then we had this recent bout of inflation, and everyone had to rediscover their pricing muscle. As you see more kind of very customer-centric pricing models gain more traction, how do you see the finance team taking the lead, or what role are they playing in influencing the establishment of pricing models, the enforcement of pricing models, and then obviously the accounting?
Yeah, I think from a pricing model perspective, we have seen the shift happening from it's happening from the customer demand, especially. Customers basically say, why do I pay for something that I don't use? That's where the consumption business model is coming. Consumption business model is nothing new. It's been there before, but it's for different goods and services we had. Now we are seeing that everywhere it's being applied to. Now with the consumption business model coming in, there's a huge impact to how do you price your products? How do you measure your price that you sell and what is the cost you incurred? How do you ensure that your margins are safe, you're not running into losses and everything? So this is where when businesses are moving from subscriptions we are seeing like it's slowly dwindling down and people are moving into consumption business models because of the customer demands. And we're seeing finance team is really involved to make sure the pricing models are not impacting the gross margins especially. And second, when these pricing model happens, finance has to clearly look in to see what is the discounting pattern for the products you can do. Like consumption models have different discount metrics. They have tiered pricing, they have minimum usage every month. So there's so many different models and they have to price for all the different models as well.
So if we think about the quote to cash process, you've got a process, you've got people, you've got presumably technology underneath that. What would your advice be to CFOs in terms of where they should focus both their time and their investment? Is it in optimizing at the process level? Is it improving at the human resource, the people level? Is it investing in new technology? Is it all of the three?
There is no one technology that's going to fit for what you need to automate your processes clean and neat that can scale. This is something that you continue to invest in. It's not going to stop at one point. Now, where do you want to invest it's a clear winner. Technology is the clear winner, right? Just throwing bodies at a problem is not going to help you scale. It's going to be on the technology. But a lot of businesses think they can invest in a technology and it will help them grow for the next 10 years. And that's not seems so true. The reason is the business models are rapidly changing and the customer demands are really the driving force behind this. So that means you have to continue to invest in the technology to ensure your processes are efficient. If you have this efficiency in place, on the other hand, it will allow you to scale your business very fast.
You mentioned ERP. In a lot of the Fortune 500 companies, they have this massive investment in ERP. But what we've seen in the last 5 to 7 years is a real shift in the mindset as it relates to ERP, which is that's a core system of record, but a lot of the investment is taking place in other areas. And if you look at the investment for a lot of companies, it's gone into sales, it's gone into marketing, it's gone into a number of areas in the business. Finance is actually heavily underinvested from a technology point of view. Is that something you see?
I've been telling this for the last, I would say, like 10 years. While talking to several folks, like I keep saying, ERPs came into place to integrate all the different functions of the business, and then I keep saying the ERP is going to start disintegrating. It doesn't mean the teams are disintegrating, but the automation tool is going to disintegrate because ERPs are not able to keep up with the different business models that come up all the time. And that's where the businesses are going to start looking for best of the breed technologies out there. So today, if you see where the ERPs are, most of them use ERPs as the general ledger, like a finance books, but everything else is like spread out across the rest of breed technology. So that's what we're seeing. So even though companies have a lot of investments in ERP, it's truly ERPs are becoming a general ledger financial statement tool, nothing more than that.
So for a CFO or even a CAO that's thinking about, or whose company is thinking about adopting a new business model, new approaches to pricing, what are the 2 or 3 kind of bottom line recommendations that you'd give to them as they start to look at adopting new business models?
When you go after business models, from a processes perspective, the pricing, from a new product introduction, the pricing strategy is one of the key things that we have seen people struggle with, because the way you price and sell the product is going to impact your entire processes, including the revenue number. The second is how do you deliver your services? It's going to impact the entire processes as well. So for example, in a consumption business model, we have seen customers will come and buy, will pay you upfront, and then they do a credit drawdown. Some customers will sell the same services as a pay-as-you-go model. These two are completely very different under the consumption business model. they need new tools to automate all this, right? You need to meter them, you need to feed them for revenue recognition. So pricing is one that I strongly recommend to look into, make sure the pricing strategies are good because it impacts all the way to the revenue. And then how you deliver the goods, it's going to impact the revenue. And the third most important one, what we have seen from a revenue recognition standpoint, is how much you allow your customers to do contract modifications. So what we say is, what is the flexibility you're giving to your customer? When can they cancel their products? When can they change their products? When can they upgrade, right? All this is a huge impact in your quote to cash processes. And this is one of the nightmares that I've seen the finance team handling today.
Thanks.